Readers learned about the famous hero Rudyard Kipling Mowgli in 1893. A boy raised in the jungle by wolves won universal love. It is believed that Kipling wrote the Wild Boy stories based on several real-life cases of children entering the jungle and managing to survive and grow up among wild animals. But the most important prototype of Mowgli is considered to be a boy named Dina Sanachar, discovered in the jungle in 1867. On that day, a group of local hunters, making their way through the dense jungle in the state of Uttar Pradesh, saw wolves entering the cave. Wolves in those days were a real scourge. They often visited villages, killed livestock and even attacked people, so the hunters decided to make a trap and shoot the animals. Since the cave had two entrances, people decided to kindle a fire near one of them, blow smoke into the cave, and when the wolves start running out of the other, lie in wait for them there and shoot them. One by one, they began to kill the animals, when suddenly they heard some grunting inside the cave, which was not like the sounds made by a wolf. And then a boy ran outside. The child of about 6 was grimy, shaggy. He moved on all fours and growled. According to another version, the hunters initially saw that a human child had entered the cave along with the wolves, and that is why they decided to smoke the wolves out of there. They wanted to rescue the boy. At first, the child did not let people near him. He grinned and growled, and then he fell exhausted next to one of the dead wolves, and it was clearly visible that he was very grieving over his death, as if he had lost a loved one. The hunters took the boy to the Sekundra orphanage, where he was baptized and given the name Sanachar, which means Saturday in Urdu, because it was on that day of the week that he arrived at the orphanage. The hunters managed to tie the boy up and take him to the city. The wild baby was assigned to a local shelter and given the name Deen. This word is translated as Saturday. On this day people found him. He received a surname, Sanachar. The boy had a very hard time in the world of people. It is believed that he had a very low intelligence. Father Erhard, who headed the orphanage at the time, described the boy as undoubtedly mentally retarded, but showing signs of reason and logic. Besides, the boy never knew how to speak. Many at the orphanage tried to teach him, but he never learned to speak, read, or write. Alas, life in the shelter did not contribute to the socialization of the wolf cub. He never learned to walk on 2 legs. All the time he ran on all fours and growled like an animal. He also did not learn to understand human speech. He ate Deen from a bowl on the floor like a beast, preferring only raw meat and gnawing it with bestial frenzy. And although it was clear that his intellect was superior to that of a wolf, the workers of the shelter did not find any manifestations of higher emotions, or at least anything human in the behavior of a child raised by wolves. Of course, from the first days they tried to dress the boy in at least some clothes, but he tore it off himself. Over time, Dina became more obedient. He no longer showed aggression towards the people who looked after him, like any animal that could be tamed. However, he never became a man. He showed no interest in people and did not try to establish any contact with them. In the end, Dina did have a friend at the orphanage, and it turned out to be not a person at all. Or rather, not quite a man, but a wild child like him. A boy was brought to the shelter, also found in the jungle and raised by wild animals. Sanachar quickly became friends with him. The children ran on all fours together and played. They also slept together, cuddled up to each other, like wolf cubs. But, alas, the new boy was in poor health and soon died. This was a real blow for Dina. He howled and roared from grief for days and nights. When Dina grew up, after long and hard efforts, the missionaries finally managed to teach him to eat with a spoon, drink from a cup, and walk on 2 legs. But it was the maximum that an absolutely wild boy was capable of. After spending 2 decades in an orphanage, he never learned to talk, read, or eat human food. Of all the dishes, the boy recognized only raw meat, and the food that was served to him. He, like any wild animal, first of all sniffed. Yes, and Dina looked specific. Huge sharp teeth, low forehead, height, about 150 centimeters. Sanachar's teacher, Father Erhard, placed Sanachar in a special educational camp, carefully planning his further development. The foundling lived out the rest of his short life under the care of an orphanage. Even after 20 years of interacting with humans, Sanachar showed little to no sane human behavior skills. Dean understood human speech at the level of an ordinary dog, focusing only on a couple of familiar phrases: "come to eat," "come to me," and so on. True, the young man nevertheless adopted one human habit: he was very addicted to smoking. He never learned to speak, read, or write. He tried to communicate with the help of throat sounds. Despite being constantly among people, Sanachar remained nervous and constantly agitated. Another strange thing that happened to Sanachar was his addiction to tobacco. He himself adopted this bad habit from people, becoming a heavy smoker. Sanachar's life ended in 1895. He presumably died of tuberculosis, possibly due to smoking. After 6 years spent in the jungle, Dina was never able to socialize. In his mind, he remained an animal, unable to become a man. Perhaps it would be better for him to continue living among the animals. If Mowgli, as we know, was interested in people's lives and instinctively strove for a person, then the real Mowgli personified the saying, "You can pull a person out of the jungle, but the jungle cannot." Unlike Mowgli, Dina Sanachar did not leave the jungle of his own free will, and, despite all the efforts of the people around him, he could not fully become a man. Dina never managed to get used to human society, and never felt comfortable in it. In a sense, he remained in the jungle for the rest of his life. This is where our video ends. Friends, I will be very grateful if you just like, write a comment and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for being with us.